Clara had dreamed of this moment for months. The white dress, the flowers, the vows that would bind her to Thomas forever. She never imagined she'd be running through the forest in that same dress, mascara streaming down her cheeks, while the man she thought would save her watched from the shadows. Clara Hastings stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her veil. Today was her wedding day. Excitement filled the air around her. The sun shone brightly in Silver Creek, and the church was full of her friends and family. Clara felt a mix of joy and nervousness as she thought about marrying Thomas, her childhood sweetheart. This day was meant to be the happiest of her life. Her mother entered the room, her eyes sparkling with tears. Clara smiled at her reflection. They had planned this day for months. Clara's heart raced as she imagined walking down the aisle. She could see Thomas waiting for her. He had always been there for her, and she believed he would always be. As the ceremony began, Clara's heart soared. She walked down the aisle, the sound of soft music filling her ears. The guests smiled at her, and she felt beautiful. But as she reached the altar, she noticed something strange. Thomas looked nervous. His hands trembled, and he avoided her gaze. Clara's heart sank, but she shook off the feeling. He was probably just anxious. The minister began to speak. Clara listened to the words of love and commitment. She could not wait to say her vows. But as the moment drew near, Thomas's expression changed. He looked pale, and his eyes darted around the room. Clara's stomach tightened. She could sense something was wrong. When it was time for Thomas to say his vows, he hesitated. His lips moved, but no words came out. Clara's heart raced as silence filled the church. The guests exchanged uneasy glances. A knot formed in Clara's chest. She wanted to reach out to him, to tell him it was okay. But then, he turned and ran out of the church. Clara stood frozen. The church felt like it had collapsed around her. Confusion filled the air. People whispered and gasped. Clara's heart shattered as she realized what had just happened. Thomas had left her at the altar. She felt the weight of betrayal wash over her. The dream she had built crumbled into dust. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Clara turned and ran out of the church, ignoring the shocked faces of her friends and family. She fled into the nearby forest, seeking a place to hide. The world around her blurred as she sobbed, her heart aching. How could he do this to her? In the forest, the trees stood tall, but Clara felt small and alone. She sank to her knees on the soft ground. The pain in her chest was unbearable. Memories of Thomas flooded her mind. They had shared so many happy moments together. They had laughed, dreamed, and planned their future. Now, it all felt like a lie. As Clara cried, she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see Jake, the quiet cowboy from town. He had always kept his distance, but now he stood close, his expression filled with concern. Clara wiped her tears and tried to compose herself, but the pain was too great. Jake stepped closer, his presence steady and calm. He did not speak at first. Instead, he sat beside her, offering silent support. Clara felt a strange comfort in his company. She began to cry again, leaning against him. Jake rested a hand on her back, providing warmth. Clara noticed how different he was from Thomas. Jake was strong and dependable, yet kind. As her sobs slowly faded, Clara felt the weight of her emotions. She had never truly seen Jake before. He had always lingered in the background, watching her smile from afar. Now, he was here, right beside her, offering a safe space. Clara felt a flicker of gratitude amidst her sorrow. After a while, Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She looked up at Jake, who met her gaze with understanding. His brown eyes were full of compassion. Clara felt a strange connection growing between them. Jake spoke softly, breaking the silence. He told her that he had always admired her strength and spirit. Clara felt a warmth spread through her. She had never considered how he felt about her before. It was as if he saw the real her, beyond the wedding dress and the heartbreak. In that quiet moment, Clara realized she was not alone. Jake was there, providing comfort when she needed it most. She began to feel a sense of hope. Even though her heart hurt, she could see a path forward. Perhaps she could rebuild her life, one step at a time. As they sat together, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden light through the trees. For the first time that day, Clara felt a glimmer of peace. She was still hurting, but Jake's presence gave her strength. She knew she would face the challenges ahead, and maybe, just maybe, she would find a way to heal. The chapter closed on a quiet moment between two souls, both searching for solace in a world that had turned upside down. Clara had taken the first step away from her past and toward an uncertain future. But with Jake by her side, she felt ready to see what lay ahead. Clara sat quietly next to Jake in the forest. The sun began to set, casting long shadows between the trees. Clara felt the weight of her emotions, but Jake's presence brought her comfort. They sat in silence, listening to the sounds of the forest. Birds chirped, and leaves rustled in the gentle breeze. Clara took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. After a while, Jake spoke. He told Clara that he had always admired her from a distance. He liked how she smiled and how she cared for others. Clara felt a warmth spread through her. This quiet cowboy saw her in a way she had not noticed before. It made her feel special, even in her pain. As they talked, Clara began to share her feelings. She spoke about Thomas and the hurt of being left at the altar. Each word felt like a weight lifted off her shoulders. Jake listened intently, nodding as she spoke. His understanding made it easier for Clara to open up. She told him how she had dreamed of this day and how it had all fallen apart. Jake did not offer empty words of comfort. Instead, he listened and allowed Clara to express her sadness. He shared stories of his own struggles, moments when he felt alone. Clara realized they both carried pain, but they were also strong in their own ways. It felt good to connect with someone who understood. As darkness settled around them, Jake suggested they take a walk. Clara agreed, needing to move and clear her mind. They strolled through the forest, the cool evening air refreshing. Clara felt lighter with each step. Jake walked beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. They reached a small clearing, where the stars began to twinkle above. Clara paused to look up, captivated by the beauty of the night sky. Jake stood beside her, sharing her awe. In that moment, Clara felt a shift inside her. The heartache of the day began to fade, replaced by a sense of wonder. As they looked at the stars, Clara turned to Jake. She thanked him for being there. She felt grateful for his kindness. Jake smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. He told her that he would always be there if she needed someone to talk to. Clara felt a warmth in her chest. It was nice to know she had a friend like him. The next few days passed, and Clara found herself drawn to Jake more and more. She returned to her normal routine, but she often thought of their time in the forest. She started working at the local bakery, focusing on the tasks at hand. The smell of fresh bread and pastries filled the air, providing a comforting distraction. One afternoon, as she shaped dough, Clara heard the bell above the bakery door chime. She looked up to see Jake enter. He greeted her with a warm smile. Clara felt her heart skip a beat. It was nice to see him, and she felt a sense of joy wash over her. Jake ordered a pastry and sat at a small table by the window. Clara served him, trying to hide her excitement. They talked about small things, the weather, and the bakery's new recipes. But under the surface, Clara felt a deeper connection growing. Jake's quiet nature appealed to her. He was patient and kind, qualities she had always admired. As the days turned into weeks, Clara and Jake spent more time together. They rode horses in the countryside, exploring the beauty of the land. Jake showed her hidden trails and breathtaking views. Clara laughed and felt free, forgetting her heartache for a while. Jake's companionship helped her heal. One evening, they sat on a hill, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Clara turned to Jake, feeling a sense of peace. She realized she was beginning to see him in a new light. He was not just a friend. He was someone who brought out the best in her. As they talked, Clara felt a tug at her heart. She wanted to tell Jake how much he meant to her, but fear held her back. What if he did not feel the same way? She took a deep breath and pushed the thought aside. For now, she wanted to enjoy the moment. But as days passed, Clara could not shake the feeling that something was changing between them. She caught glimpses of Jake's affection. The way he looked at her, the way he cared for her. Each time they were together, Clara felt more and more drawn to him. One afternoon, while they were riding, Clara noticed Jake seemed distant. He was quieter than usual, and Clara sensed a change in him. She wanted to reach out, but she did not know how. As they rode back to town, she felt a pit in her stomach. What was happening between them? That evening, Clara decided to confront her feelings. She found Jake at the edge of the forest, leaning against a tree. He looked up as she approached, his expression thoughtful. Clara knew she needed to speak her mind. She took a deep breath and told him how much she valued their friendship. She shared her feelings, the way he had helped her heal. Jake listened intently, his eyes softening. Clara hesitated but pressed on, wanting to be honest. She admitted that she felt something deeper for him. Jake looked surprised, but Clara could see the warmth in his eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, but paused. Clara's heart raced. She held her breath, waiting for his response. Jake took a step closer, and Clara could feel the tension between them. In that moment, Clara realized they were at a crossroads. She had stepped out of her past and into a new possibility. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. Clara stood in front of the bakery, her heart racing. She had just confessed her feelings to Jake, and now she felt a mix of hope and fear. Would he feel the same way? She glanced back at him, but he remained quiet, deep in thought. The silence felt heavy, and Clara's stomach twisted with anxiety. The next day, Clara returned to the bakery, trying to focus on her work. The sweet smell of cinnamon and sugar filled the air, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept replaying her conversation with Jake. He had looked surprised, but also intrigued. Clara hoped he would reach out to her soon. As the day passed, she noticed people whispering in the bakery. Clara's heart sank as she realized they were talking about her. She overheard snippets of gossip about her abandoned wedding and how quickly she seemed to move on. The hurtful words stung, and she felt the weight of judgment from her neighbors. Later that afternoon, Clara saw Thomas enter the bakery. He looked nervous, and Clara's heart raced. She had not seen him since the wedding day. He approached her, his expression serious. Clara felt a mix of anger and sadness. She did not want to relive that moment. Thomas tried to explain himself. He spoke about his fears and how he regretted leaving her. Clara listened, but her heart was hard. She felt betrayed and angry. She did not want to hear his excuses. The pain of his actions was still fresh. She told him firmly that she was moving on and did not want to rekindle their relationship. As she turned away, Clara noticed Jake standing in the doorway. He had been watching the interaction, and Clara felt a rush of emotions. She wanted to run to him, to feel his support. But she also felt exposed, knowing Thomas was there. Jake stepped forward, his presence strong and steady. He approached Clara, looking concerned. Clara could see the tension in his jaw as he regarded Thomas. Jake stood tall, ready to defend her from the harshness of the past. Clara felt grateful for his quiet strength. As Thomas continued to plead his case, Clara felt overwhelmed. She did not want to be caught in the middle of their confrontation. Jake spoke up, his voice calm but firm. He told Thomas that Clara deserved respect and support, not the pain he had caused her. Clara watched as Jake stood by her side, and she felt a warmth in her heart. The tension in the bakery grew thick. The other customers watched, some whispering, others looking uncomfortable. Clara felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. But Jake's unwavering support gave her strength. She realized she was not alone in this moment. Finally, Thomas backed down. He left the bakery, his head hanging low. Clara took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. She had stood up for herself, and Jake had been there to support her. It felt empowering. After Thomas left, Clara turned to Jake. She felt relief wash over her. He had defended her when she needed it most. They stood close together, and Clara could see the warmth in his eyes. She knew that their bond was growing stronger. But as Clara began to feel hopeful, she noticed the whispers around her. People were still talking about her, and the weight of their judgment pressed down on her. She felt exposed, and doubt crept in. What would people say about her and Jake? Was it too soon to be moving on? That evening, Clara and Jake met in the forest. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the trees. Clara felt a mixture of emotions as she approached him. She wanted to talk about what had happened in the bakery, but she also felt vulnerable. As they walked together, Clara opened up about her fears. She told Jake how the town's gossip made her feel small and judged. She spoke of her worries about their growing friendship and what others would think. She felt the need for his reassurance. Jake listened quietly, nodding as she spoke. He understood the weight of her words. After she finished, he took a moment to gather his thoughts. He shared his own experiences with the town's judgment. He had faced criticism for his quiet ways and for being different. Jake told Clara that he admired her strength. He reassured her that their connection was real, regardless of what others thought. He encouraged her to follow her heart, no matter the opinions of others. Clara felt a rush of gratitude. His words gave her hope and comfort. They spent the evening talking and laughing, the worries of the day fading into the background. Clara felt lighter, the bond between them deepening. It was as if they were building a world together, free from the judgment of others. As darkness fell, Clara realized how much Jake meant to her. He had become her anchor in a stormy sea. She felt safe with him, and she began to understand that their connection was more than friendship. It was something special. But the next day, as Clara walked through town, the whispers started again. She overheard a group of women gossiping about her and Jake. They spoke harshly, saying she was moving on too quickly and that she should still be mourning Thomas. Clara felt her heart sink. That afternoon, Clara met with Jake at their usual spot in the forest. She shared her frustrations about the gossip. She felt defeated and hurt by the judgment. Jake listened, his expression serious. He took her hand, reassuring her that they could face this together. Clara realized that despite the town's harsh words, she had Jake by her side. And with him, she felt a growing strength. She knew they had to stand together against the negativity. Together, they could create their own path and find their happiness. With new determination, Clara looked at Jake. She knew they were in this together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of hope. Clara woke up the next morning feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. The sun streamed through her window, but the weight of the town's gossip lingered in her mind. She had decided that she would not let the whispers control her. Today, she would focus on her work at the bakery and spend time with Jake. As Clara arrived at the bakery, the comforting smell of fresh bread greeted her. Her coworkers greeted her with smiles, but she could sense the tension in the air. She tried to shake off her worries and focused on kneading the dough. The rhythm of her hands helped calm her racing thoughts. Later that morning, just as Clara was serving customers, Thomas walked into the bakery again. He looked different this time, more composed but still carrying a hint of regret. Clara felt her heart race. She did not want to see him again, but she forced herself to stay calm. Thomas approached the counter and asked for a pastry. Clara's hands trembled as she handed it over. He looked at her with a seriousness that made her uneasy. After a moment, he spoke. He wanted to explain further why he had left her at the altar. Clara felt anger rising within her. She had already heard enough. With a firm voice, Clara told him that she did not want to talk about the past. She had moved on, and she was determined to focus on her future. Thomas looked taken aback, but Clara stood her ground. She had learned to value herself, and she refused to let him drag her back into the pain. Just then, Jake walked into the bakery. He saw Clara standing tall, facing Thomas, and felt a surge of pride. Jake approached them, sensing the tension in the air. He placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, silently offering his support. Clara looked at him, feeling reassured by his presence. Thomas noticed Jake and shifted uncomfortably. He seemed to realize that Clara had someone who cared for her deeply. Clara felt a spark of confidence. With Jake by her side, she felt strong enough to face anyone. After a brief moment, Thomas turned and left the bakery. Clara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Jake squeezed her shoulder and smiled. Clara felt grateful for his unwavering support. She realized that this moment was a turning point for her. She was beginning to reclaim her power. The rest of the day passed, and Clara focused on her work. The bakery was busy, and she lost herself in the tasks at hand. But despite the noise around her, her thoughts kept drifting back to Jake. She couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement about their growing bond. After closing time, Clara and Jake met at the edge of the forest. She told him about Thomas's visit and how she had stood up for herself. Jake listened intently, pride shining in his eyes. He praised Clara for her strength and reminded her that she had the right to choose her own path. As they walked together, Clara felt lighter. She realized that she was no longer defined by her past. With Jake, she felt free to explore new possibilities. They shared stories and laughter, their connection deepening with each moment. Later, as the sun began to set, Clara and Jake found a quiet spot to sit. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and Clara felt a sense of peace. They talked about their dreams and hopes for the future. Clara shared her desire to open her own bakery one day. Jake listened, encouraging her with his words. As they sat together, Clara felt a warmth spreading through her. She looked at Jake and saw a man who believed in her, who saw her potential. She realized that she wanted to share her life with him, but doubt crept in. What if the town's judgment tore them apart? Jake seemed to sense her hesitation. He gently took her hand and spoke softly. He told her that he would stand by her no matter what. His words filled Clara with hope. She understood that together, they could face any challenge that came their way. The next day at the bakery, Clara was busy preparing for a busy afternoon. She had decided to create a new pastry special for the weekend. As she worked, she felt a sense of purpose. The bakery was her sanctuary, a place where she could express herself. But as Clara was mixing dough, she overheard a group of women gossiping again. They were talking about her and Jake, making hurtful comments about how she was moving on too quickly. Clara felt a rush of anger and sadness. After work, Clara sought out Jake in the forest. She needed to talk to him about what she had heard. When she found him, she poured her heart out. She spoke about the hurtful words and how they made her feel small. Jake listened, his expression serious but understanding. He wrapped an arm around her shoulder, pulling her close. He told her that people would always talk, but their opinions did not matter. What mattered was how they felt about each other. Clara felt comforted by his words. She realized that she needed to focus on her own happiness, not on what others thought. As they sat together, Clara felt a sense of clarity. She knew that being with Jake was right for her. They had built a strong connection, one that could withstand the judgment of others. And with that realization, she felt a renewed sense of strength. The next day, Clara decided to hold her head high as she walked through town. She would not let the gossip control her life. She would embrace her relationship with Jake and focus on her dreams. As she entered the bakery, she felt a surge of determination. She would create a special pastry that represented her journey, a symbol of her strength and resilience. Clara was ready to take charge of her life and show the world that she was not afraid. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would write their own story, free from the shadows of the past. Clara smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of their journey. Clara woke up the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. She had decided to create a special pastry for the bakery, something that would reflect her journey. She wanted to celebrate her strength and the new path she was on with Jake. After breakfast, Clara headed to the bakery, her heart full of excitement. She arrived early, ready to experiment with ingredients. The smell of fresh bread and pastries filled the air, creating a comforting atmosphere. Clara rolled up her sleeves and got to work. She decided to make a cinnamon roll with a twist. It would be sweet, warm, and full of flavor, just like her journey of healing. As she mixed the dough, she thought about all the challenges she had faced. She had felt lost and alone, but now, with Jake by her side, she felt strong. As she prepared the filling, she remembered the way Jake had supported her through the difficult moments. He had seen her for who she truly was, and that made all the difference. Clara smiled as she shaped the dough, feeling a sense of pride in her work. This pastry would symbolize her growth. Later in the morning, the bakery started to fill with customers. People came in for their morning coffee and pastries. Clara greeted them with a smile, feeling more confident than ever. She could sense that word was getting around about her new special pastry. As the day went on, Clara felt a buzz of excitement. She had set up a display for her cinnamon rolls, and customers were eager to try them. She watched as they took their first bites and smiled. Their enjoyment filled her with joy, and she felt a sense of accomplishment. In the midst of the busy day, Jake arrived at the bakery. He walked in with a warm smile, and Clara's heart fluttered. He approached the counter, and Clara felt a rush of happiness. She loved seeing him, especially during this moment of celebration. Jake ordered a cinnamon roll, and Clara handed it to him with a grin. She watched as he took a bite, and his eyes lit up. He praised her creation, telling her it was the best he had ever tasted. Clara felt a blush rise to her cheeks. His support meant the world to her. As they spoke, Clara could see the pride in Jake's eyes. She felt grateful to have him in her life. They spent the afternoon together in the bakery, talking and laughing. Clara realized that every moment they shared brought her closer to him. But as the day progressed, Clara overheard whispers from some customers. A group of women was seated nearby, and she caught snippets of their conversation. They were gossiping about her, saying she was too focused on her new relationship with Jake. Clara felt her heart sink. She tried to shake off the hurtful words, reminding herself of her strength. But the whispers lingered in her mind. Clara turned to Jake, who was looking at her with concern. He could sense her discomfort and moved closer. Clara shared her feelings with him, telling him about the gossip she had heard. Jake listened closely, his expression serious. He wrapped an arm around her shoulder and reassured her. He told her that people would always talk, but their opinions did not define her. With his words, Clara felt a surge of strength. She realized that she could not let the judgment of others take away her happiness. She had worked hard to rebuild her life, and she would not let gossip hold her back. As the day came to an end, Clara felt a sense of determination. She had created something special, and she was ready to embrace her future with Jake. They closed the bakery together, and Clara felt grateful for the bond they shared. The next day brought more challenges. Clara was busy in the bakery, but the gossip continued to swirl around town. She felt the weight of judgment on her shoulders, but she refused to let it affect her. Instead, she focused on her work and her customers. As she prepared for another day, Clara decided to take a stand. She wanted to show the town that she was proud of her choices. She planned a small event at the bakery, inviting everyone to come taste her special cinnamon rolls and celebrate new beginnings. When she announced the event, some people looked skeptical, but others seemed intrigued. Clara felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She knew that this was her chance to reclaim her story. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came her way. As the event day approached, Clara and Jake worked together to prepare. They decorated the bakery with flowers and set up a display for the pastries. Clara felt a sense of joy as they worked side by side. Jake's presence made her feel supported and loved. On the day of the event, the bakery buzzed with energy. Clara greeted customers with a smile as they arrived. She felt a sense of accomplishment seeing the community come together. The air was filled with laughter and chatter, and Clara's heart swelled with pride. People began to taste her cinnamon rolls, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Clara felt a rush of happiness as she watched customers enjoy her creation. She realized that her hard work had paid off. She was no longer the girl who had been left at the altar. She was a woman who had found her strength. As the event continued, Clara spotted some familiar faces in the crowd. A few women who had previously gossiped about her approached, looking curious. Clara felt a flutter of nerves, but she stood tall. She was ready to face them. To her surprise, the women complimented her pastries and congratulated her on the event's success. Clara felt a mix of relief and pride. They were beginning to see her for who she truly was, not just as the girl from the past. That evening, as the event wound down, Clara felt a sense of joy. She had taken a stand and shown her community that she was proud of her journey. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever the future held. In that moment, Clara understood that she was no longer defined by her past. She had built a new life, filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. And with Jake by her side, she felt strong enough to face anything that came her way. Clara felt a sense of accomplishment after the event at the bakery. The community had come together, and she had received positive feedback about her cinnamon rolls. But just when she thought things were looking up, Thomas returned to town, bringing with him a wave of uncertainty. One afternoon, as Clara was preparing for another busy day in the bakery, she heard a familiar voice behind her. She turned to see Thomas standing at the counter, looking serious. Clara's heart sank. She had hoped she would not have to face him again. Thomas asked if they could talk. Clara hesitated but agreed. She felt a mix of anger and sadness at the sight of him. Part of her wanted to demand answers, while another part just wanted to move on. They stepped outside the bakery, where the fresh air felt heavy with tension. Thomas began to explain that he had spent time thinking about his actions. He said he had changed and wanted to make things right. Clara listened to him, but the hurt still lingered in her heart. She remembered the pain he had caused her, how he had abandoned her on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. As Thomas spoke, Clara felt torn. Part of her still cared for him, while another part wanted to protect her newfound strength. She told him that she had moved on and was focusing on her future. She explained how much she had grown since their breakup. Thomas looked disappointed but tried to convince her that they could start over. He said he had learned from his mistakes and was ready to be the partner she deserved. Clara's heart raced. She felt a mix of emotions, but one thing was clear. She was no longer the same girl who had been left at the altar. Just then, Jake arrived at the bakery, looking for Clara. He paused when he saw her standing with Thomas. Clara felt a rush of relief at seeing him. Jake approached them, sensing the tension in the air. He looked at Clara first, then at Thomas. Clara introduced Jake to Thomas, and she could see the discomfort in Jake's eyes. She could feel the protective energy radiating from him. Jake stood close to Clara, a silent promise of support. Thomas tried to engage Jake in conversation, but Jake's responses were polite but brief. Clara could sense the tension between the two men. She knew that Jake was uncomfortable, and it made her heart swell with gratitude. He was there for her, ready to stand by her side. Clara turned to Thomas and firmly stated that she appreciated his desire to make amends, but she needed to focus on her own life. She told him that she had found happiness and strength in her new journey, especially with Jake. Thomas's expression shifted from disappointment to frustration. He argued that people deserved second chances, but Clara stood her ground. She explained that she had worked hard to heal and grow, and she was not willing to go back to the past. After a tense moment, Thomas huffed and turned to leave. Clara felt a mix of relief and sadness as he walked away. She had faced him and stood up for herself, but part of her still felt the weight of their shared history. As Thomas disappeared from view, Clara turned to Jake. She felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had faced a difficult situation, and Jake had been there to support her. They stepped back inside the bakery, and Clara could feel the tension slowly fading. Jake took Clara's hand and squeezed it gently. He told her how proud he was of her for standing up to Thomas. Clara felt warmth spread through her. His support gave her strength, and she knew she could always count on him. But even as Clara felt stronger, doubts crept in. She began to question her feelings for Jake. What if Thomas really had changed? What if she was moving too fast with Jake? The whispers of uncertainty filled her mind. Over the next few days, Clara found herself distracted. She focused on the bakery and her work, but her thoughts often drifted back to Thomas. She began to wonder if she had made the right choice in rejecting him. Jake noticed her distraction. One evening, as they walked through the forest, he asked her what was on her mind. Clara hesitated, but finally opened up about her feelings. She explained her worries about Thomas and the doubts that lingered. Jake listened carefully. He assured her that it was normal to have doubts after everything she had been through. He reminded her of how far she had come and how much she had grown. He encouraged her to trust her instincts and to remember the pain of her past. Clara appreciated Jake's honesty. She realized that she had to trust herself in the choices she had made. She could not let the past dictate her future. As they walked, she felt the weight of uncertainty beginning to lift. The next morning, Clara decided to take action. She would not let Thomas's presence hold her back any longer. She focused on her work at the bakery, pouring her energy into her creations. She wanted to show the town that she was strong and capable of moving forward. As the days passed, Clara continued to push through her doubts. She and Jake spent more time together, and their bond deepened. She found comfort in his steady presence and unwavering support. But Thomas was still lingering in the background, and Clara knew she had to confront him one last time. She wanted to put an end to the uncertainty once and for all. She decided to invite him to the bakery to talk. When the day came, Clara felt a mix of nerves and determination. She prepared herself for the conversation, knowing that this was her chance to find closure. As she waited for Thomas to arrive, she could feel Jake's reassuring presence nearby. When Thomas walked into the bakery, Clara took a deep breath. She was ready to speak her truth. She would not let his past actions define her any longer. It was time to close the door on that chapter and embrace her future with Jake. Clara stood in the bakery, her heart racing as she waited for Thomas to arrive. She had decided this meeting would be a moment of closure. She wanted to put the past behind her once and for all. With Jake by her side, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. When Thomas entered the bakery, Clara felt a rush of emotions. He looked different than she remembered, more mature but still carrying the weight of their past. He approached her cautiously, and Clara took a deep breath, ready to face him. "Thank you for meeting me," Thomas said, trying to sound calm. Clara nodded, keeping her expression neutral. She wanted to hear what he had to say but was not willing to let her guard down. "Clara, I know I hurt you. I've had time to think, and I regret leaving you that day," he began. Clara felt anger bubbling up inside her, but she forced herself to listen. "I've changed. I've worked on myself," he continued. "I want to make things right. I believe we could have a second chance." Clara felt her heart race. Part of her wanted to believe him, but the memories of pain and betrayal flooded her mind. She remembered standing alone at the altar, feeling abandoned and broken. Those feelings were still fresh, and she couldn't ignore them. "Thomas," Clara said, her voice steady, "what you did hurt me deeply. It shattered my trust. I can't just forget that." She felt empowered as she spoke, knowing she had every right to express her feelings. Thomas looked down, his expression shifting from hope to despair. "I know I can't change the past," he replied quietly. "But I want to show you that I've changed. I want to be the man you deserve." Clara took a deep breath, weighing her words carefully. "It's not just about you anymore. I've built a new life for myself. I've found strength in my journey, and I'm happy where I am." She thought about Jake and how much he meant to her. At that moment, Jake stepped forward, sensing the tension. He stood beside Clara, offering silent support. Clara could feel the warmth radiating from him, and it gave her confidence. "Clara deserves to be happy," Jake said firmly, looking at Thomas. "What happened in the past is behind her. She has moved on, and you need to respect that." Clara glanced at Jake, feeling grateful for his unwavering support. She knew he would always stand by her side, ready to defend her choices. Thomas's face fell. "I didn't come here to fight," he said, his voice low. "I just wanted to explain myself. I thought maybe we could start fresh." Clara shook her head. "I appreciate that you want to make amends, but I can't go back to what we had. I need to focus on my future." As she spoke, Clara felt a weight lifting off her shoulders. She was finally taking control of her life. She was no longer tied to the past, and it felt liberating. Thomas looked defeated. He took a step back, his eyes filled with regret. "I understand," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to know that I am sorry for everything." Clara felt a pang of sympathy for him. She could see that he was struggling, but she knew she had to remain firm. "Thank you for saying that, Thomas. I hope you can find peace and happiness too." With those words, Clara felt she had closed the chapter on her past. She had faced Thomas, expressed her feelings, and stood strong. As Thomas turned to leave, a sense of finality washed over her. She was ready to embrace the future. After Thomas walked out, Clara took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. She had faced a difficult situation, but she had come out stronger. Jake looked at her, his eyes filled with pride. "You were amazing," he said, taking her hand. "You stood your ground." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. Jake's support meant everything to her. As they left the bakery together, Clara felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had made the right choice. She was ready to focus on her future with Jake, who had been there for her every step of the way. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Jake grew closer. They spent time exploring the countryside, riding horses, and enjoying each other's company. Clara felt as if she had finally found a safe place in Jake's heart. One evening, as they sat on a hill watching the sunset, Clara turned to Jake. She wanted to express her feelings. "Jake, I've never felt this way about anyone before," she admitted. Jake's eyes sparkled as he looked at her. "I feel the same way, Clara. You brought so much joy into my life. I didn't think I could feel this way again after everything." Clara felt a rush of happiness. She knew that they had built something special together. They shared their hopes and dreams, talking about their future. Clara could see a life together filled with love and support. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara leaned closer to Jake. She could feel the warmth between them, the connection that had grown stronger with each passing day. In that moment, she realized that she was ready to fully embrace her feelings for him. She wanted to take a step forward in their relationship. Clara leaned in and kissed Jake softly. It was a gentle kiss, filled with promise and hope. Jake kissed her back, his hands cradling her face. Clara felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had finally moved on from her past, and in Jake, she had found love and happiness. As they pulled away, Clara smiled at Jake. She knew that together, they could face anything that came their way. Their journey was just beginning, and she felt ready for whatever the future held. With Jake by her side, she felt stronger than ever, ready to embrace a new chapter in her life. Clara and Jake's relationship blossomed in the weeks that followed. They spent every moment they could together, exploring the beauty of Silver Creek and learning more about each other. Clara felt a joy she had never known before. But as their bond grew stronger, so did the whispers in town. The gossip about Clara and Jake intensified. Some people were supportive, but others were harsh. They said Clara was moving on too quickly after Thomas and that she should still be mourning her past. Clara felt the weight of their judgment, but she tried not to let it affect her. She had worked hard to find her strength and happiness. One afternoon, while Clara was busy at the bakery, a group of women entered. Clara recognized them as the ones who had been gossiping. They approached the counter, and Clara felt her heart race. She kept her expression neutral as they ordered their pastries. As Clara packaged their orders, one of the women spoke up. "I hope you know what you're doing, Clara," she said, her tone sharp. "People are talking. You shouldn't be so quick to forget your past." Clara felt a rush of anger. She wanted to defend herself, but knew that arguing wouldn't help. Instead, she took a deep breath. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with my choices," she replied firmly. "I've learned to value my happiness, and I won't let anyone take that away from me." The women exchanged glances, surprised by Clara's response. Clara felt a surge of confidence. She was no longer the girl who would shrink under the weight of others' opinions. She had grown stronger, and she was determined to stand her ground. After the women left, Clara felt a sense of relief. She had faced them head-on, and it felt liberating. But the encounter left her shaken. She wondered if she would always have to deal with the judgment of others. Later that evening, Clara met Jake at their favorite spot in the forest. She shared what had happened at the bakery. Jake listened closely, his expression serious. "You handled it well," he said, pride evident in his voice. You have every right to be happy, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. Clara felt reassured by his words. She appreciated that Jake understood her struggles. Together, they had created a safe space where they could be themselves without fear of judgment. But the gossip continued to swirl around town. Clara noticed that some people looked at her differently, whispering behind her back when she walked by. It was as if they were waiting for her to fail. Clara felt the pressure building, and it began to weigh on her. One day, while Clara was working in the bakery, she overheard two customers discussing her and Jake. She's just trying to make herself feel better, one woman said. It's too soon for her to move on. Clara felt hurt by their words. She wanted to shout that she was happy and that her feelings for Jake were real, but she held her tongue. That evening, Clara confided in Jake about the gossip. She told him how the judgment of others made her feel small. Jake listened with understanding, and when she finished, he took her hands in his. We can't control what others say, he said gently, but we can control how we respond. You deserve to be happy, and I'll be here to support you. Clara felt comforted by his words. She knew that Jake believed in her, and that made a difference. They spent the evening talking about their future, dreaming of what their lives could be together. Clara felt a sense of hope wash over her. As the days passed, Clara decided to take action. She wanted to show the town that she was proud of her choices and that her relationship with Jake was strong. She planned a community gathering at the bakery, inviting everyone to come together for a day of fun, food, and friendship. When the day of the gathering arrived, Clara felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She had prepared special pastries and set up games for the children. She wanted to create an atmosphere of joy and connection. As people began to arrive, Clara greeted them with a smile, determined to show her strength. Jake stood by her side, helping her with the preparations. As the crowd grew, Clara felt the energy shift. People began to mingle and enjoy the food. Laughter filled the air, and Clara felt a sense of belonging. But as the event continued, Clara noticed a few familiar faces lingering at the edge of the crowd. The same women who had judged her before watched from a distance, whispering among themselves. Clara felt her heart race. Would they ruin this moment for her? As she served pastries, Clara took a deep breath. She reminded herself of the strength she had found. She was not going to let anyone take away her happiness. She decided to approach the women, determined to face them head-on. Hi there, Clara said, her voice steady. I hope you're enjoying the gathering. The women looked surprised by her approach. Clara felt a surge of courage. I want you to know that I'm happy with my choices. I'm building a life I love, and I hope you can support that. The women exchanged glances, and Clara could see their expressions shift. She felt empowered as she spoke her truth. They were taken aback, and for a moment, the air was thick with tension. One of the women finally spoke, her voice softer. We didn't mean to hurt you, Clara. We were just worried. Clara felt a flicker of understanding. I appreciate that, Clara replied. But I need to follow my heart. I hope you can understand that. As the gathering continued, Clara felt lighter. She had faced the judgment head-on and stood her ground. The event turned into a celebration of community, and Clara felt a sense of pride in what she had accomplished. Later in the evening, as the sun began to set, Clara looked around at the smiling faces of her friends and neighbors. She felt grateful for the love and support surrounding her. In that moment, she realized that she was no longer defined by her past. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they had created a bond built on trust and love. Clara smiled, knowing that their journey was just beginning, and she was excited to see where it would lead them. As Clara and Jake's relationship deepened, they began to envision a future together. Clara felt happier than she had in a long time. But just when things seemed to be going well, Thomas returned to town with a plan that would shake their world. One crisp morning, Clara was busy at the bakery when she heard the bell above the door chime. She looked up to see Thomas walk in, a determined look on his face. Clara's stomach tightened. She had hoped he would stay away after the community gathering. Clara, Thomas said, his voice steady. I need to talk to you. Clara felt her heart race. She didn't want to revisit the past, but she knew she had to face him. Okay, she replied, trying to keep her tone calm. What do you want to talk about? Thomas took a deep breath. I know I messed up, but I want to make things right. I've been talking to some people in town, and I want to show everyone that I can change. Clara felt a mix of emotions. She didn't want to hurt him, but she also couldn't ignore the pain he had caused. What do you mean? She asked cautiously. I want to organize a community meeting, he said. I want to clear the air about what happened between us and show that I'm a better person now. I want people to see that I can be trusted again. Clara was taken aback. You think a meeting will change how people feel? She asked, surprised by his boldness. Thomas nodded. Yes. I believe if I explain my side, they will understand. And maybe you could support me. It might help people see that we can all grow. Clara felt conflicted. She didn't want to be involved in Thomas's attempts to rewrite their past, but she also understood that he was trying to make amends. I need to think about it, she replied finally. As Thomas left the bakery, Clara felt unsettled. She didn't want to go back to the past, but she couldn't deny that Thomas seemed sincere. She had to talk to Jake about this. That evening, Clara met Jake at their favorite spot in the forest. She shared everything that had happened with Thomas. She explained his idea for a community meeting and how it made her feel uneasy. Jake listened closely. What do you want to do, Clara? He asked gently. This is your choice, and I'll support you no matter what. Clara took a deep breath. I don't want to hurt him, but I also don't want to go back to that place. I've worked so hard to move on. Jake nodded, his expression serious. You've built a new life, and you should protect it. But if you feel this meeting could help him and the community, you might consider attending. Clara appreciated Jake's perspective. She knew he cared about her feelings, and that made her feel supported. She decided to think it over, but was still uncertain about what to do. Over the next few days, Clara noticed the gossip in town picking up again. Some people were curious about Thomas's plan, while others were skeptical. Clara felt the pressure building. She could see that Thomas was trying to gain attention, and she didn't want to be part of it. Finally, Clara made her decision. She would attend the community meeting, but would not support Thomas in any way. She wanted to hear what he had to say, but she would also stand up for herself and her choices. On the day of the meeting, Clara felt a mix of nerves and determination. The town hall was filled with people, and Clara could sense the tension in the air. She spotted Thomas at the front, looking nervous but ready to speak. As the meeting began, Clara listened as Thomas addressed the crowd. He spoke about his regrets and how he had worked to change. Clara could see that he was sincere, but she also felt the weight of her own truth pressing down on her. When it was time for the audience to speak, Clara stood up. She felt her heart pounding, but she knew she had to be honest. I appreciate what Thomas is trying to do, she began. But I also want to share my experience. What happened between us hurt me deeply. The room fell silent. Clara continued, her voice steady. I have worked hard to heal and build a new life. I found happiness, and I won't let anyone take that away from me. She glanced at Jake, who nodded encouragingly from the back of the room. As Clara spoke, she could see the surprised expressions on the faces of the townspeople. She felt empowered, knowing she was standing up for herself and her journey. After Clara finished, there was a moment of silence before someone in the audience spoke up. We appreciate you sharing your story, a woman said. It's important to hear both sides. Thomas looked taken aback, but nodded. Thank you, Clara. I respect your feelings, and I understand that I can't change the past. I just wanted to show that I've changed. The meeting went on, and people began to share their thoughts. Some supported Clara, while others were still hesitant about Thomas. Clara felt a sense of relief. She had spoken her truth and had not backed down. As the meeting came to a close, Clara felt lighter. She had faced her fears and stood strong. Thomas had made his case, but she had also made hers. She could see that the town was beginning to understand her journey. After the meeting, as people began to disperse, Jake approached Clara. You were incredible, he said, pride shining in his eyes. You stood up for yourself, and that takes courage. Clara smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. Thank you for being there for me, she replied. I couldn't have done it without your support. As they walked home together, Clara felt a sense of closure. She had faced Thomas in the judgment of others, and she had come out stronger. She knew that she had built a new life for herself, one filled with love and happiness. With Jake by her side, Clara felt ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. They had faced the storm together, and now they could look forward to a brighter future, hand in hand. Clara was determined to continue her journey of self-discovery, and with Jake, she felt unstoppable. Clara and Jake walked home after the community meeting, feeling a sense of relief. Clara had faced her past and stood strong in her truth. She knew that she had made the right choice by speaking up. With Jake by her side, she felt ready to embrace the future. As the days went by, the town began to settle. People were starting to understand Clara's journey. The whispers faded, and Clara felt a sense of peace. She focused on her bakery, pouring her heart into her work. Every pastry she made was a reflection of her growth and resilience. One sunny afternoon, Clara was busy preparing for a new batch of pastries when Jake surprised her with a visit. He walked into the bakery with a smile, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Clara felt her heart flutter at the sight of him. "Hey there," he said, handing her the flowers. "I thought these would brighten your day." Clara beamed as she took the bouquet. "They're beautiful." "Thank you, Jake." She could feel the warmth in her chest, knowing he always knew how to make her smile. Jake leaned against the counter, watching her as she arranged the flowers in a vase. "I was thinking," he began, his expression serious. "We've both come a long way. I want to celebrate that." Clara looked up, curious. "Celebrate how?" "I want to take you on a trip," he said. "Just the two of us. Somewhere we can relax and enjoy each other's company. I think it would be good for us." Clara felt a rush of excitement. She had always dreamed of traveling, but she had never taken the time for herself. "That sounds amazing," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "Where do you want to go?" "How about the mountains?" Jake suggested. "We could hike, camp, and enjoy the beauty of nature. It would be a great way to unwind." Clara smiled, imagining the adventure. "I would love that. I've never been camping before." "Then it's settled," Jake said, grinning. "Let's plan it for next weekend." As they discussed their plans, Clara felt a sense of joy. She knew this trip would be a chance for them to grow even closer. They had both faced their pasts, and now they could look forward to a bright future together. The week flew by as Clara prepared for their trip. She packed supplies, excited for the adventure ahead. Jake helped her gather everything they would need, and their laughter filled the bakery. Clara felt grateful to have him by her side, supporting her every step of the way. On the day of their trip, Clara and Jake set off early in the morning. The drive to the mountains was filled with conversation and laughter. Clara felt the weight of the past lift off her shoulders as they traveled together. The scenery changed from flat land to rolling hills and towering trees. When they arrived at the campsite, Clara was in awe of the beauty surrounding them. The mountains loomed majestically, and the fresh air felt invigorating. They set up their tent, and Clara felt a sense of excitement bubbling within her. As the sun began to set, they sat by the campfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. Clara looked at Jake, feeling a deep sense of connection. "I'm so glad we did this," she said, her heart full. Jake smiled, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire. "Me too. It's nice to escape and just be ourselves. You've come so far, Clara. I'm proud of you." Clara felt a rush of emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jake. You've been my rock." They shared a quiet moment, the sounds of nature surrounding them. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Clara felt a sense of peace. She knew that she had found her place in the world, and it was with Jake. The next few days were filled with adventure. They hiked through the mountains, explored hidden trails, and even swam in a cool lake. Clara felt alive, free from the worries of the past. With each step, she grew more confident in herself and her choices. One evening, as they sat by the campfire, Jake turned to Clara. "There's something I want to ask you," he said, his expression serious. Clara felt her heart race. "What is it?" she asked, curious. Jake took a deep breath. "I want to build a future with you, Clara. You mean so much to me, and I can't imagine my life without you. Would you consider taking that step with me?" Clara's heart swelled with emotion. She had never felt so loved and supported. "Yes, I would love that," she replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "I see a future with you, and I want to build it together." Jake smiled, relief washing over him. They shared a tender kiss, and in that moment, Clara felt more certain than ever about their love. It was a love built on trust, support, and the journey they had taken together. As the trip came to an end, Clara and Jake packed up their campsite, feeling rejuvenated and ready to face the world again. They drove home, hand in hand, knowing that they had created beautiful memories together. Back in Silver Creek, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was not just a survivor of her past, she was thriving. With Jake by her side, she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As they settled back into their routine, Clara knew that their love would only continue to grow. Together, they had faced challenges and emerged stronger. She felt excited for the future, knowing that love, resilience, and hope would guide their way. With Jake, Clara had found not only love but also a partner who believed in her dreams. Together, they would write their own story, filled with joy, adventure, and the promise of a bright tomorrow.